All right, and we are live. Welcome, everyone, to episode 29 of Narrations and Lamentations with Mittierim Boys. I am your host, Mittierim. With me, for the first time in, 3 weeks, we have both of Du Bois, Skip, and Michael. Say hi, fellas.
Hi, fellas.
Hi.
Thank you, Gracie. And joining us to continue our discussion on the End Times books is the one, the only, the shoulder of Vincent Venturella.
is that all that's there in the frame? Sorry, I'll lean up.
There we go.
I'm getting too relaxed in my chair. Good evening, everybody.
So, this is going to be basically a continuation of our discussion from last week, basically focusing on the End Times books and how sort of our favorite parts of them mechanically and what we feel that can be best harvested for use in general games just for around the house or even tournaments, I guess. But so, first things first, let's get into a little bit of hobby talk. So, what's everybody been working on?
What else?
Getting your archers done?
Yeah, how's that coming along?
So far, so good. I hadn't had a lot of chance to paint this week, but I'm very happy with my one test model that I got done. So, except for the base on it, and getting ready to start the whole unit here pretty soon, so I can at least get that done.
Very good. How about you, Michael? What you got?
Hi, Al. Be amazed.
Yay! One spearman down. What? 39 to go.
Yeah, actually.
Hey, I do remember what your lists are from time to time.
Well, he was also working on that wizard. That looked like it was coming along really well. Did you finish him up?
No, I've kind of hit a brick wall with the book, but that's more I just haven't decided on what I want to paint it.
Gotcha.
So just kind of switching it around until you can come up with some ideas.
Yeah.
And so what about you, Vince? How's Bretonia treating you?
Oh, it's good. Rounding third, as it were, on the second full lance. Just working on my prophetess here. So once we get her done, then she'll be number 10 in that lance, and then 2 more knights to go, and we got a lance number 2 in the bag.
Very nice. So once that's done, what's still left on your list to round out the army?
Oh my God, there's so much. I have more than 5 lances of knights. So I mean, it's just I have a lot of knights. I'm gonna be doing this for months.
Well, you know what? As long as it
pain.
keeps you off the streets and out of trouble, I guess. So.
There you go.
As for me, the big thing I've been working on lately is battle reports. Trying to get the 5 bat reps from Brawler's Bash done and up has taken most of my hobby time. But I do have a day off tomorrow, so I'm going to actually start my next piece of the Lizardmen army, which is going to be my Ripperdactyls. Yay! So I got 3 of them that I'm going to get primed and painted. Or at least 1 or 2 of them painted tomorrow, let's hope. But that's pretty much what I got on the board. So just a quick note because I have been getting a lot of questions about this from folks. Michael and I, at very least, will be having a video about our sort of feelings and general thoughts on Brawler's Bash, but we're actually not going to do that, or very least not post it, until after all of the battle reports are up, so that there are no spoilers. But for those of you who have been asking generally how we felt about it, I know Naren, one of the questions he posted to us tonight is how we enjoyed the tournament scene. Overall, it was a positive experience for both of us, I think. And it is definitely something that we might want to do again in the future. But as far as any further details on it, you guys are going to have to wait. But I'm hoping to have, I'll probably have the rest of the battle reports up before the end of the week, and then we'll do the video sometime shortly thereafter, kind of as our sum up video. So I think that's all of the business we have to deal with. So getting to our topic tonight, as we discussed last week, whether or not you like sort of what's going on in the end times, or even necessarily all the rules, I think each of the books has at least certain things, maybe ideas, maybe concepts, that can be harvested and used in a general campaign system, or even general just home games. So I wanted to start off like we did last week, of just asking you guys what you thought, if for something out of either Kaine or Thanquol, what do you think rules-wise is the best thing that you could use in a home game that you'd get the most value out of?
Well, I certainly have one that I'm happy to jump up with right out of the gate.
Go for it.
And I mean, it's probably fairly obvious for those who have watched me go on and on about the Skaven before, and that is, you know, all the new rules for the Skaven models that are in there, the Vermin Lords, Thanquol, and, you know, the Storm Fiends as well. The Storm Fiends have caught a lot of shade, but they are a really fun model, and they're, you know, with the exception of one gun of questionable power level, the other weapons and options they have are all fun and cool and interesting, and so I like every one of them. I've used all of them on the table in at least 2-3 games. I've gone my way through like almost all the Vermin Lords. I think they're awesome. If you're a Skaven player, you should absolutely have those and pick up those models because they're great fun on the table.
That's cool. My thought, because I know there was at the tournament at Brawlers, there was a lot of discussion of how busted the Rattling Cannon one is, and the thought that occurred to me then while I was listening to some folks chat about it was, I think the one thing that they could do just to balance those out pretty quickly is to restrict you to one of each type in a unit. So if you're going to bring a unit of 3, you can't just load up with 3 rattling guns. You got to have 1 rattling gun and 2 of something else. What do you think about that, Vince?
I mean, I don't think it would bother me too much. The problem is I think it would hit the other weapons too hard. Like, I think it's overcorrecting to a point because, like, if we want to say only one guy could have a rattling cannon or something and not touch the other weapons, I wouldn't care. Wouldn't bother me none. I've only used the rattling cannons in 1 game, and I mean, the problem with them is that those Storm Fiends chew up your rare. And, you know, the Skaven wins the back. Skaven as a army wins on the back of a combination of the worst core in the game and some of the best rare in the game. So, like, and you're going to be paying off that rare. Like, you're losing your Warp Lightning Cannon or your Doom Wheel or your Hell Pit to buy those Storm Fiends, and those guys are paper tigers, man. They will go down. Like, very quickly will they go down. It takes like a stiff breeze to put those guys in the ground or panic them off, which is not true for the other things I just listed. So it's always of questionable value. I mean, yeah, if you got 6 of them and you march them forward and they just turn and obliterate a unit, sure, I guess that's kind of beardy, but then they'll probably just die. I mean, I don't know if you could, if that's literally your whole rare section with 6 of those, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to think a Hell Pit plus a Doom Wheel and 2 Warp Lightning Cannons, if focused on a single unit, would similarly eliminate that thing from existence.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I thought it was funny that folks were talking about them when they did show up at Brawlers, but they didn't really make as big a splash as I was expecting. Matter of fact, I think only one Skaven army I think ended up in the top 50 at Brawlers. So I don't think that they're necessarily as game busting as they might they might otherwise be. But there was a lot of talk about how game busting that they would be.
I'm sure. I think the value of Storm Fiends, much like my own death, has been greatly overstated.
Right. So what about you fellas? Do the boys have any thoughts on what Kaine is salvageable?
Well, we both, I think all of us can agree the magic system sucks. I'm sorry.
With one notable exception.
Yeah. What's that notable exception, Vince? Because I think I'm going to deny the all agreement, but give us what you got.
The Kaine magic system sucks. The end times spells are awesome and need to be part of the normal game. That would be my only distinction.
I will amend my my statement to that. Yes, some of the spells are pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with that. That was going to be one of the counter arguments to that blanket statement. The other thing I was thinking is I could see it being interesting periodically. Like if you had a scenario in mind where you were dealing with some crazy arcane portal that was going nuts on the battlefield, throwing that in just to make magic just absolutely nuts for a little bit could be interesting. I think it's got uses. I don't think it's auto, like, let's huck it to the side of the road and bury it. Though, I think that was our original impressions when we first tried to play it.
I'm still pretty close to that. I could agree with you that, like, once in a 5-year period, in a very particular scenario, to suit that exact narrative, I could see it. But that being said, if it got thrown to the side of the road and buried and forgotten about, yeah, I'm pretty okay with that too.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit then. What do you think was the point in that magic system that they went completely bonkers and made it so hated?
46.
So you think it's just the magic dice?
It's just the amount of it.
I
mean, you're looking on averages 8 to 16, where you'll have 16 power, your opponent will have 8 dispel, and the ability to just keep casting spells. Oh, look, I'm going to keep casting the same spell. I've got 16 dice, you got 8, you can't stop me.
Well, I think that might not even necessarily be as big a deal as the fact that I think the bigger problem was that the Dispeller had to roll for the number of dice they could use as well. And so even if you did have a lot of dice and you wanted to throw it at the one critical spell, if you screwed up and rolled a 1, you're done. You can't counter that. And I think it's far more important, given the power of Magic in this edition, to have the access to your dispel dice. It isn't necessarily the access to power dice, you know?
It's way too random.
Yeah. You know, Mitt, you and I have talked a lot about agency when it comes to, like, the nature of the narrative, but I think this is a great example of agency in gameplay, right? I mean, the reality is that movement, you have a lot of agency over your troops, you know, and it's a very tactical phase. Even, you know, probably the most straightforward phase is I don't know, combat, I guess, because even shooting has tactics to it, you know, using flaming in the right order to shut off regeneration, who you target, what chaff you remove, when do you target a big block to thin it out. There's a lot of like skill and tactic to shooting. Combat, once you're in, if you're literally just talking about the combat phase and the fighting, there is certainly some tactics there as well, of like how do you declare challenges and how you move models and stuff like that, when do you accept and when you make way. But it sort of removes all of the agency from Magic, right, and just turns it into like a random dice back and forth. It's much harder to play tactically when, just as you said, you can't ever be sure you're going to get the dispel, right? I can't save back my dice knowing something. I can't be sure I'm going to get a spell. And then the other thing is just the whole rules conundrum that came out of it. I think the repeat combined with spells out of older edition books that never were meant to, that are already of questionable things, like being able to wither a unit to death in one turn with a Skaven spell, right? And then the raw versus rye discussion of when is a spell failed or whatever, you know, when do you have to stop casting, like that entire discussion. Oh.
So I think we basically can agree that it's overly complicated.
Yeah.
And I think it's... Well, and I think the big thing is it's one of those situations where the complications truly impede the flow of the game. I mean, there's a lot of things in this game that are very complicated, but they go towards making the game work. I think these are just complications for the sake of complications.
Agreed. And one thing I will say is that I'm going to give them a lot of credit for that, though. Okay, here's the thing about it. Kaine magic was a failure, right, as a thing that people are interested in. But that's okay. It really is. Because here's the thing. If you want to be a home run hitter, you got to swing for the fences. And sometimes you're going to strike out, right? I mean, that's what it is. And, like, I love that they actually tried to change the rules to fit what was going on in the narrative, i.e. the breaking of the vortex on Ulthuan, to try to make that piece of the narrative real in the games, right? I thought that was pretty cool that they were willing to do that. I love that idea of having the narrative inform the rules of the game. Fantastic. More of that. Just, we learned from our mistakes. Now let's not do that exact thing again.
I'll give you that. I think for me, I'm going to go with one of the more subtle things again. I like the jungle fighting rules out of Thanquol. And maybe it's just because my mind is in Lizard Man land these days, but I think that's been my favorite thing out of all of these rule books so far, is just these different rule sets for different types of combats. I think that's the thing that's more generally useful to a lot of folks, even when they're not playing these end times rules. If you want to do a jungle fight, now we got rules for it. You wanted to do a cavern fight, well, Nagash gave us those rules, and so I think that's definitely a plus side.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked last week about how the city fight doesn't quite work. So.
But it's still a good idea. Like, it's exactly right. We sort of assumed before this all battles are happening on a roughly flat plain with a hill and, like 2 sets of trees and maybe a building. But, like, that's sometimes those fights, especially in a fantasy world, could be in more interesting places. And it's neat to have those options out there.
Unless, of course, you're playing at our table where there's the wandering river of light that will come and find you regardless. I tell you, that was one thing that kept messing with my head at the tournament, is I was, like, thinking about the terrain, going, I wonder what that's going to be, and then I'd have to stop myself and go, wait a minute, they're not doing any magical terrain in this. I think it's made me very nervous around trees and water.
Trees can and do randomly explode in giant fireballs. You got to watch out for it. The Warhammer world's a dangerous place.
Right. All right, so I was going to lead into the same question I asked next on last session, which is what you guys thought was the worst, but I think we've pretty much already beat that with a stick as far as the Kaine magic being the worst thing out of these 2 books. That you wouldn't want to bring into your campaign. So what I'm going to do is let's focus a little bit more on the end times spells. I know we've talked before about simply using them as another alternative for signature spells and that sort of stuff, but I was wondering if you guys had any particular thoughts on where you'd like to see those things come up in a game, if you think they're good for kind of general use, if they should be allowed in every game, if you should limit, like, to maybe 1 caster per side or anything like that. What do you guys think is the best way to incorporate those end time spells into just an average game?
I think you could do it like a dispel scroll almost. You pay the points for it, you get a 1-shot. Maybe not that many points, not 25, but just use it as a 1-shot. 5 points. Something like that. Not like a 1-use item.
Interesting. I'd say then it could retain its ability not to be dispelled under that circumstance if you price it right. Maybe it's 10 or 15 points you can cast it once during the game, and if you get it off, it can't be dispelled. It's a riskier proposition on those 25s because, you can pretty easily fail a 25 even on a 6 dice. It's interesting.
It's kind of neat.
Huh.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought, if you really want to go with an Iron Man style game, you can basically use it as a shuffle deck for a Sorcerer's Portal.
Nice. You just have the
Just be like-
Sorcerer's Portal randomly cast end time spells.
Yeah,
I like it.
it would definitely make the game just absolutely insane.
I will mess up someone's day. Wait till that Nurgle spell comes out.
I want the Beastman spell to rip out and start breaking buildings.
Hey, I'll take the metal spell on my unit, thank you.
Yeah, that
Sure.
2-up ward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the funny part would be if you're just like, you're having a game of like Beastmen versus High Elves, and like the Nehekar and Undead spell cast off, and it's just like, okay, great. Well, okay, all the Tomb Kings on the board get +1 weapon skill and strength and initiative, so good times. Moving on. You know, like there's a lot of whiffs in that list.
Yeah. Well, it's just like the actual Sorcerer's Portal, where who gives a shit if your Fast Cav loses a point of armor? It's like,
Yeah.
woo. But, I mean, that could be a fun way of using it, just in one of those thinking outside of the box sort of ways.
I like that. I do. I think that's
We
a
may-
lot of fun. I love the Sorcerer's Portal, so anything that makes that thing even more prevalent and gives it a wider range of lunacy, I'm pretty much all about. I think that's great.
Right.
As long as it's not the damn well.
What? Oh, the
As long as
well.
it's not that damn well.
You're,
Kills everybody but Skip's army.
that's just because Skip can't roll dice for shit.
Exactly.
Skip,
So-
I feel your pain. In the last weekend, I had a game where I had a group of storm vermin that had gotten beat up, and I actually turned them and let them sat them by that well. The only time I drank out of it, the only time anybody drank out of it the whole game, I was like, all right, here we go. This is going to be perfect. Get that roll, heal them up, charge the next round, win the game. Rolled 1, poison, black. I was like, oh, come on.
Wah, wah.
Yeah, exactly.
So speaking of Skip, you actually have our first comment tonight is a question for you, my friend.
Oh, okay.
Nicholas Belair asks, have you embraced the Dark Elves like you teased?
No. I actually did what I said I was going to do. Talked about doing. I did a pros and cons list, and the way that everything worked out, it just turned out that I'm going to use Bretonia first. But Dark Elves are going to come out. It's going to be my third army, actually.
So Bretonia and Wood Elves is what you're staring down.
Yep.
I think you should do one of your videos on your channel where you go through the pros and cons list on the air. I'd like to see what you...
That's actually I've been thinking about that, so I may do that.
I'd like to see what your logic is on the pros and cons of each of the army. I think it would be fascinating.
Okay, I got them written down somewhere.
Well, you don't have to do them now. I just
Oh, okay, good. I'm not going to do improv. No.
right. So, what about you, Michael? What do you think would be the best way to use the end time spells? You dwarf player, you.
Is there a way to make them just hit my opponent?
No.
Oh. I don't have an answer then. That's the only way to help if I'm playing dwarves.
Right. Well, I think the best way for us to use is I think the original way, and I don't remember if I've ever said this on the air before, but the idea that if you're a 3rd or 4th level caster, you can essentially choose an end time spell as if it were a signature spell for that lore. But with that rule in place, they would be able to be dispelled. They'd basically just be normal spells, just at a very high cost. So you get the option to attempt, essentially swing for the fences and actually get use out of the spell rather than them just being a pretty deck of cards that I bought and have no use for.
Yeah, we did much the same thing. We did, you're allowed to dispel them, and you can make your doubles choice one of them, right? Like if you're rolling it's a level 3 and 4 only, same thing you said. and then if you roll like 1, 3, 3, 5, you can sack your other 3 into an end time spell. So,
but you can't do it. You can't do it normally as if it were a signature. You've got to get doubles to.
Yeah. Yep. That was how we, just to make them a little more rarefied. I think your way is perfectly good too. I think it's just about setting how often you want, how much access you want to them, right? So, but I think both are perfectly viable. It's about what's right for your game.
Yeah, I'd like to at least get more chance with them because I think in all the games we played where we allowed them, I think we've gotten one end time spell off once. As I'm pretty sure I got the medal off one game. But that's about it.
So no one's summoning any greater unclean ones or anything?
Not yet. Well, I think I've only tried it with my Empire army. I don't think I tried it with my demons yet.
I tried it with Shadow, but I never could get it off.
Yeah, well, because anybody who lets you get that spell off is insane.
Yeah.
That spell is pretty freaking terrifying. But, so the one thing that I guess none of us have really talked about is the formations that showed up in Thanquol. So I was kind of curious what you guys thought. I mean, none of us mentioned them as sort of the coolest thing to bring into to our home games. What are the general thoughts about those as sort of an alternate way of building an army?
I love the idea. They kind of, I mean, I know it's not part of the discussion, but it gets expounded upon again in Archaon. I'll leave those out of the discussion, but they're clearly continuing to do it. I very much like the idea of the thing. I think it's just none of them that are in there particularly grab me in Thanquol, which is funny as a Skaven player.
Right.
But, like, honestly, a lot of the ones in the new book do. I think they just needed to be expounded upon. I think it's a really cool idea. It just didn't, like, what's there in Thanquol isn't useful to very many people because it's basically a bunch of Skaven things and then, like, add Dwarf and add Empire, right? Or an Atlas, the Teeny Weenies, whatever his name is. Teeny Weenies Red Host. And I think that if those were expounded upon and given, like, really cool, fluffy stories and given like just 1 or 2 unique special rules, and they don't have to be game breaking or even that good, just neat different stuff, I think they would be fantastic and just blow the doors off army construction. If for in your home games at least.
Yeah, well, Michael, what do you think? Before I go ahead and give my.
Well, I like formations that are fluffy. Old school Warhammer had multiple different formations of, hey, let's build up for this type of army. This is for this type of army. I like it. I'd use it if they had them that were, well, like Vince said, if they had a couple of special rules, I'd use them.
Yeah. I like the idea, and this might be getting into a little bit of the Kaine stuff, or not the Kaine stuff, the Archaon stuff, because there's some in there. But my biggest beef against them, or at least how they've been portrayed so far, I don't like the idea that they're attached to special characters. I would be much happier if they were set up where you didn't have to include special characters to make use of them. I mean, because I think that restricts it to not being as useful for our kind of games, because it sort of forces the narrative to be one thing with those characters in it.
I'm totally with that. I would much rather they just be like, I would much rather limit it. Like if you were going to have, I don't know, like an artillery train of Nuln or something, or like a very particular Empire army, and it would be your general has to be a level 4 battle wizard on metal, right? And just constructed something like that. Given those kind of restrictions, I would like much more than like your army has to include Kurt Hellborg, right?
Yeah. So before we continue on this, I actually just found something I wanted to talk about. Uh, you guys know how they've been giving out buttons and stuff when you order the new books? Did anybody get the like "What Would Jesus Do" corn band?
I got my live strong.
It says "Tremble before corn." It's got the skull and the chaos symbol. I just think it's so goofy. Tremble before corn, or I'll pop you with a rubber band.
Right. I'm living strong. I'm giving blood for the blood god. I get it. I know what's up.
Oh, GW, you're trying too hard. Just stop.
Michael, you should love corn. That should be your dog right there. That should be like your. He's like that is like the dwarves of chaos. Like they hate magic too. They're very like stubborn. They like to fight. That's what corn's bringing to the table. They're brothers from another mother. That's all I'm saying. I don't think I've swayed him.
I don't think so.
There's so many things wrong with that. I will stick with my previous statement that corn is not actually corn. Grimnir is corn.
Right. So, what? I don't know if Michael or Skip, you guys had any thoughts on the formations.
I really don't have any opinion one or the other.
Okay, we'll accept that.
I mean, I like maybe try it out. We've tried. I put my foot in my mouth too many times now, so I'm just gonna say I need to try it out before I get a review on it.
Okay.
So it may be something that we love and we just don't know, or maybe something that we hate and we'll never want to see it again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, other than the magic rules, which we seem to all pretty much despise, what do you guys think were the big misses in the Thanquol and Kaine books in terms of mechanics, or if you want to go into storyline or models at this point, we can definitely do that.
All right, I finally got to read all of the Wood Elf fluff now that I have the book. And my question to the panel here and to Warhammer World out there, if you were a Wood Elf, would you want all those other damn elves living in your forest? No! There are other islands out there. Go there. Get the heck out of my forest. Okay, I'm done.
I think it's I hear you. I think it's more of a matter of like you got to do what you got to do. Them other elves, they show up and they want in. I mean, what are you gonna do? Like run in little circles around them? What do you got? You got a bunch of glade riders and angry trees. You're not keeping them out. You're done.
Right. Don't worry, Skip. Spoiler alert. They won't survive there for long. I'll go next then if nobody else has got one. I honestly think, and this is going to be funny coming from me since I haven't really been interested in any of the other models so far, but I think the fact that they didn't do any model kits for the Kaine book was definitely a big miss. I think they had some opportunity to update some old kits, and for whatever reason, they chose not to, and I think that was a big miss. I mean, I could even see, because they had 2 dragon riding characters they needed to upgrade to. That, in and of itself, could be a big dual kit. There's definitely some options for different models that they could have done, and I was very surprised that they didn't.
You know why they didn't?
Why didn't they?
Because there were 2 armies of order in that book, which means they can't release new models for armies of order.
Right. I did. I did come up with one model I wanted to see just as a mean FU sort of trick. a new big model of the Lady of the Lake that's like this big, but then when you open it up, it's got a little elf god hiding inside of it.
I think it's more like, it should just be like her head. It's like the great and powerful Oz, right?
Yes.
Like the dumb Bretonians just fall for it every time. It's just like the people in the Emerald City. Oh, Oz, he's so powerful, lady.
Yeah, I'm hurting now. Hurting inside.
Don't worry, dude. It gets worse.
Look, here's all that matters about that. Who cares? Who cares what she really was? The reality is, she gave them Bretonians a 5-up ward save or whatever, and I didn't see her handing out any ward saves to the elves, so I don't care what she was originally, she clearly favored the Bretonians most of all. Stupid elves are running around ward saveless T3. Humans, they're getting the best. They know the power of prayer.
That is a super arguable point, and for me to continue arguing it, it would have to get into the Archeon stuff we're avoiding so far. But remind me of that in another week. You and I will have it out on that particular point.
Fair enough.
So, what about you, Michael? Any particular misses from Thanquol and Kaine?
Can I just say the entire book is Thanquol?
You can, and actually, while we're discussing your distaste, let's go ahead and break the will of the one and only Remington Steele, as he responded with a statement. He says he hasn't read all of Thanquol yet. He's still reading the part where the lizardmen are defending their cities. Please tell me that lizardmen unleash a cosmic gun handed down from the old ones and annihilate the rats. If by annihilate you mean get defeated by, yes.
They're very
If
successful
you
being
want
defeated.
that to be true, Remington, just stop. Yes, that's exactly what happens. Now stop reading and never pick up the book again.
Exactly.
Never.
It will be true for you.
You will not get the time back in your life.
Yeah, it's not.
Or keep reading and learn of the ultimate victory of the greatest race that has ever been birthed upon the old world and their inevitable glory over the lesser races.
Oh, a new Bretonian book's coming out?
Oh!
I don't remember the dwarves winning.
Exactly. You're damn right you don't.
No.
Although
If
I Queen Caretaker saying anything.
if that's true, then it's VC.
That's the greatest race?
Well, apparently, who was the one that struck the final blow?
That's a good point. Can't argue with that.
But yeah, just unless you've got a hard on for learning that lizard men have radios and spaceships, just stop reading the book, Remington. Put it down and back away, because there is nothing but heartache contained within those pages for you, my friend.
If you like the idea of supervillains blowing up moons, maybe keep reading. I'm just throwing counter options. You decide where you want to be.
Right.
You know, it's fine.
Welcome to my moon base.
Exactly.
So the other question he asks is, what do you think about the beastmen at the end of the Kaine being hunted to extinction by the Dark Elves just to preoccupy them, instead of turning on the Wood Elves? Well, first of all, I would say extinction is a strong word, because the later books, they show up everywhere. It's nowhere close to extinction. I think it's more like weekend hunting parties to keep them interested. And at that point, why not? I mean, you get rid of the weaker beastmen, make the herd stronger. Sounds like a win-win for me.
I don't really think you can get rid of the beastmen. It'd be like getting rid of the Skaven.
Right.
They just breed
Certainly not with the current writing staff. You're not getting rid of the beastmen. They might be ignored come the next edition, but they certainly weren't annihilated in this one.
Yeah, my feeling of it was just basically those there in Athaloran are basically gotten rid of. But I mean, the Beastmen are, they're sort of like ever-present all across the old world, right? They're in everything from the Dragonfold all the way east. So, I mean, it's just, if you're in the wild, they're around somewhere.
Right. Well, and I don't know how much of, because you said you had been skipping around in Archeon, Vince.
Yeah.
But they're not all out of Athaloran either. Like, they show up in huge numbers in Archeon. So, like I said, it makes it sound like they're just kind of hunting them for sport. not really any sort of focused military force. Or that could be yet another one of the inconsistencies I was discussing with you earlier.
Sure.
But apparently Remington is on it for questions tonight. He also wants to know what we think Slan tastes like.
Frog.
Chicken. Obviously chicken. As the bad guy in the Muppet movie told us, frog legs taste like chicken, hence Slan tastes like chicken.
Right.
Easy.
Penguins are practically chickens.
Yes, as are Slans, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that entirely is dependent upon whether they have wandering deliberations or not. I imagine they have like a flavor based on the magic they use. Like wandering deliberations would be like a giant gumbo. It's got all sorts of stuff in it. You're not sure what, but it's delicious all the same.
So, do you have to be in Colorado to eat the Slan that use high magic?
Yes.
Gotcha.
I just imagine them all sounding like Jabba the Hutt. Oh, I don't know why.
Because they kind of look like Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah.
I get the better mental image of having them all talk like Kermit the Frog, just because it looks funny.
Absolutely.
So, to kind of vaguely drag us back on topic, because we're going off in left field again, and the last time we went off in left field, I got a lot of hate mail. So, what if you guys could do something to alter either of these books, whether it's adding a unit or models that wasn't present, or changing ones that were, or coming up even potentially even new rule ideas, what would it be?
That one's easy for me. I would change the way the Eternity Host works. It's one of the things I honestly like the least. I didn't mention it because I don't find it egregious too bad. I find it to be just a missed opportunity. I love both of the smaller armies, like the army of the Phoenix King and the army of Asterion, because they're like flavorful and are kind of more pointing toward a particular point in time. But the Eternity Host is so boring. It's just like it takes two of the best armies in the game and says absorb the other one's rules at no cost. Right? Like just hey, if you're a high elf, have murderous prowess now too, and why not? Like if you're playing high elves, why not just erase that name at the top and write a host of the Eternity King and done, and you just gain a special rule.
Yeah, I could see that. What about you, fellas? Anything that you would jump up and change?
I mean, you say that before. I would like to have seen some new models come out with Kaine. Maybe even one unit or something to support it, and they didn't do it. I mean, if you have a hard on for elves, I mean, you love this book because you can mix all three of your armies together, and have a ball with it. But I don't know. It's just to me, it's just anticlimactic too. I don't know. And Malekith, I still think he's a dick.
Don't worry, he is. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna let a little bit of my jerkiness response here come through. Fluff-wise, I wish they had some actual characters. I think, and Vince and I were discussing this a little earlier, because they're trying to cram so much into these books, they're having to resort to really undefined kind of flat trope characters instead of actually bringing good, solid characters in, and I really would have liked that. But I think from a rules standpoint or even model standpoint, I would like to have seen something from some of the opposing forces. Some new model, some new something for the Lizardmen as they were facing the Skaven, from the elves as they're kind of fighting each other. Just something. Throw us a bone here. It feels really crappy to be players of the armies that aren't getting supported in what is supposed to be this awesome, revolutionizing storyline, and I think it just makes about half of the players of the game feel like they can't really participate in this cool event to any meaningful end. And I think that's a huge missed opportunity, and it's one of the things that I think holds true on all the End Times books. It just feels like somebody didn't quite think that one through all the way.
Yeah, I think they had to try to, they tried to split the difference here, and it came out. There's just no way they could have won this, because you think about like a novel, you got 100,000 words or something, and you really you have one protagonist and you're focusing on basically one story. There's maybe 5-6 characters that really interact in the novel. Here you've got about the same amount of words, maybe probably less per book, and then you've got to mix in all these big art pages and battles and stuff like that, and other descriptions and just filler, and then you've got to work in 50 different characters and all these different armies and all this stuff. So it makes it really tough. And I feel like that what we talked about last time with the idea that they didn't release a lot of good guy models because I have a very strong feeling that good guy models are going to rain for months from the skies when Ninth comes around. But again, they didn't communicate any of that. So what it makes everybody feel like is, oh, if we play a good army, you don't give a crap about us, and you don't want to give us cool toys and cool models and cool stuff to hobby on. And that's really unfortunate, because I don't think that's their intention. But I can certainly see how one could very legitimately feel that way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and it's, I mean, I wouldn't even be talking about like overwhelming numbers. I mean, I would feel comfortable because I mean, they would release 2 to 3 kits for the evil guys in most of these books. 1 new kit for a Force of Order, I don't think would be too unrealistic. And I mean, yeah, maybe they've got a bunch that they're front-loading Ninth with, but I mean, spread those out a little bit. Share the love, keep the interest for those order groups, and it would have made a stronger product release, I think, ultimately. But I definitely agree with you, Vince, in that mechanically speaking, I think the Legion of the Elves is just crazy. I think if they had left it at the first 2, it would have been better.
Mm-hmm. Because at least then you've got to make a choice about not having every toy you want, right? Like, there are some toys you don't get access to.
Right.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Michael, Skip, any other thoughts?
It just seems and we've discussed this before, it's just so much doom and gloom for this entire thing. If they could have just released one hero, one good guy, just one, to give the people who actually do want to play this and do like to be on the side of good some hope. I mean, it's just, you're wiping out characters left and right, and that's fine. But that somebody's got to step up and replace them. It just feels like it's like reading a Wolverine comic over and over and over again, or a Punisher comic, or something like that. There's just, I don't like. There are no heroes, really, none.
Well, I will actually argue that having seen the fullness of the story now, because I just finished the Archeon today, there are heroes that step up. Unfortunately, they're all from villainous factions.
Yeah, I was going to say, the man you're looking for has the initials VVC, my friend.
Yeah. Vlad is honestly the closest thing the story has to a hero. And I will stretch that across all of the... I'll stretch that across all the races, because frankly, by the time you get done with Archeon, I was just ready for the world to end, because there wasn't a decent human being in existence. The elves are all manipulative dicks. It's just, yeah. I absolutely lost any sort of interest or contact in the world, which I guess maybe that was their job, as they were making the world seem so unappealing that we didn't care when they blew it the fuck up.
Look, all I'm saying is you got Vlad in the novel, you got Cetra. Those two come in. We got both sides of the undead. They just fist bump, and end this problem. They're
Really,
good to
really,
go.
are you sure about that, Vince? Because I don't remember the word Cetra appearing anywhere in the Archeon book.
It doesn't.
I looked
He
for
shows
it.
up in the novel.
I know.
Yeah.
Also,
I'm saying, they just need to like fist bump and end the whole problem.
right.
The only reason that it all went down is because the two of them never got together. You could have got Vlad and Cetra in the same room. Boom, no problems. World saved, easy.
So, as a side note, just as a personal thing, I'm going to go on a little bit of a micro rant here. Everyone knows of my love of the ogres. So I was hoping the ogres would come in big, even if they're all killed, have a good part in this story somewhere. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I would like to give you guys a rundown of the full extent of the appearance of the ogres in all 5 of the End Times books. Are you ready? In Nagash, they get a single page. They're not mentioned at all in Glotkin. They're not mentioned at all in Kaine. They have 1 chapter in Thanquol and 3 sentences in Archeon. And keep in mind, those 3 sentences aren't even all together in Archeon. They're like, here's stuff going on, and the ogres were there too. Here's stuff going on, and somebody saw an ogre. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And no one likes the ogres. Those were pretty much the 3 sentences. So, sadness. Yeah, right.
At least they're alive.
No one's alive, Skip. The planet goes Death Star. No one is alive.
Yay! Okay.
Maybe that's it. Maybe the dude who finds the little speck is actually an ogre. That's really what Greasus is. He just thought it was a gold coin, and he makes the new world.
It says the guy was once a man. Also, Greasus got iced by Grimgor.
Yeah. That's at least something good. That's actually my biggest problem. Put the important story things in the actual freaking lore book. Don't make people go out and get a novel to understand the shit that you're putting in your lore book. I mean, that is just this whole thing has been messy, and I've lost all patience for it. But at any rate, sorry, that was another left turn. Let's go ahead. We're getting close to sort of the end of time. Let's go ahead and look at some of these questions. So starting with Naren's Aid, he was one of the ones asking about the tournament, so I already told about that. He also wants to know if we plan on attending any of the GTs in the Northeast. He says if we do, there's a pony in it for us.
Pretty good offer.
Right. I don't see anyone beating his door down to get that pony.
An actual pony?
No, Michael. Have you been drinking still, or are you still drunk from the tournament?
I'm super tired, man.
Okay. No, he was the one that did the My Little Pony Bretonian army. That's what he's talking about.
I was actually hoping for an actual pony.
Right. All right. So
you can have your own Bretonian.
Yeah, pretty much.
But that question, very unlikely.
Yeah.
It's frankly difficult enough for us to get away for a weekend when the tournament is actually in our home state, much less the travel time it would take to go up north. So almost certainly not, sad to say.
Yeah.
So then Kieran Dunleavy asks, have any of you guys played with Kaine magic? I think we answered that one, Kieran. And asked if we included the fulcrums. If we did we find it fun or tedious? To be honest, I don't think we gave the fulcrums a try, did we?
No.
How about you, Vince? Did you try the fulcrums
No,
at all?
I will say when we did it, we didn't use the fulcrums either. I don't really like them. I don't like something about it rubs me the wrong way. I might be judging unfairly, and I will admit I didn't play with them back the last time they tried to foist fulcrums on us either. I've just never been a big fan of it. I don't summoning up terrain like that. It's neat. The models are neat. I like the things themselves, the pieces, but yeah.
Okay. So, sorry, no answer to your question there, Kieran. Kieran's second question is, he especially liked the ideas of formations as presented in Thanquol. Although thematic, he wishes the rewards for some of them were a bit better. What kind of formation or rewards would you like to employ for your favorite army?
Again, not to jump ahead, but the Archaon book nails it. The host of metal and fire and all that stuff. Like when you look at just most of them have like 1, 2 special rules, and you read it and you're like, yeah, want to play that, that's cool. It's just a neat little twist on the army. It just moves it a little bit in one direction, and you're like, yes, good. Like that host of metal dwarven army is really cool.
Yeah, that's the one that's led by Gelt.
Yeah.
And it's Gelt and the Zulfbar dudes. I could see that one being kind of cool. And actually, Michael, you'll probably be a little happy with Archaon, because there is some decent dwarf action in it.
Does my race live?
No one lives. Let's put it this way: no one lives, but they don't die any faster than the rest of everybody else.
There you go.
GW spent the last 4 months just crushing my soul. I really have lost all care.
Yeah.
See, I think I got a little bit of my juice back at the tournament this weekend. I was talking to Vince about this. Is even my hatred for the End Times books kind of melted away in the level of fun and badassity that
I love the
Brawler's Bash was.
I love the tourney. I still love Warhammer. The books have killed me for the whole lust style of it. It's just like, oh well, everyone's dead.
I can understand that. I was just saying, for me, like the positivity I came back with from the tournament, like let me push all that shit out of the window of my mind.
I'm a dwarf. I let it fester.
But let's
I'm clearly the odd man out here, because I am super positive. I read Archaon and I was like, yes, this is great. More of this. Woo! What a fantastic end. Like I'm thrilled about every note and everything. Yeah, there are a couple tiny things I don't like. But I love it. Top to bottom, left to right, north to south.
You were blinding yourself to an awful lot of horrible in the way that book is written. By the way, I mean I'm not even talking about like the characterization and everything. I'm just talking about purely their plot hole you drive a truck through. It's just a badly written text. But at any rate, I think the more question that he was wanting, and frankly the part that's more interesting to me, is if you had to put together a formation for your particular favorite army that you crafted that doesn't have to be tied into the End Times book, what would you be and what kind of rewards would you choose for that particular formation?
May I? I have a
Go right ahead. You go right ahead, sir.
All right. Tomb King's army. All right. Here's the formation. You have an Ushabti as your lord, and he gets the stat line of a Tomb King, okay, and he gets my will be done to affect other Ushabti, and in this formation, Ushabti costs 35 points. Boom, done. Do it, and you got like, take a bunch of them.
That sounds fun. Let's see.
I would go Bretonia, up the men-at-arms to actual good, like a weapon skill 3.
Don't get greedy.
Yeah, and give them the option of praying as well.
Sounds good.
The elite peasants.
Yeah, the elite.
Right. So, Mike, do you have one, or should I go next?
You can go and go.
Okay. Mine is actually going to be a Wrath of the North kind of thing with the ogres. You would be required to take a Tyrant and at least 2 units of Yetis and 2 Thunder Tusks. And the idea would be that the bonus you would get is the Yetis get Ogre Charge. And the Thunder Tusk's Always Strikes Last ability would extend out to units within 12 inches instead of 6. or instead of models within 6.
I like it.
Go
Sounds
all frosty
Yeah,
upside
totally.
somebody's head.
If only there was like a cold magic lore. There's a fire. How come there's no cold? Because then you could like turn your fire belly into like a ice heart, right? And he could use the cold lore too. But why isn't there a cold lore? Come on, G Dub. Fire, get some cold in there.
Yeah, that's actually a good question. You would think maybe they could do it with heavens, but they go all lightning with heavens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give
All
some
right, well
more
there we
cold
go.
power.
That's a thing for 9th edition. Let's see a lore of cold from the frozen north.
Right. So what about you, Michael? What sort of, or are you too exhausted to tell us a formation?
I'd like to make a formation of, you take, basically, you have to have a Demon Slayer and a Dragon Slayer. Dragon Slayer can be your BSB. And Slayers get moved over to core, and Giant Slayers become special.
So the idea of being able to make yourself a solid Slayer army again?
Pretty much.
Very nice.
And I'd say probably special will give them like a 5 of ward against shooting or something.
Some sort of defense?
Yeah.
I can see that.
There's so many ways you can go with this, and that's what I love about formations. Like, here's another Bretonnian one I'd love to see. I'd love to see like a quest for the Grail Bretonnian formation, right? It's like in this one you can't take Knights of the Realm or Grail Knights. You can only take Errants and Questing Knights. Your lords all get the Questing Vow for free. Questing Knights points are dropped by like 3 or 4 points, and they lose the Always Strikes Last rule with their greatswords.
Except then your general would have to be an elven woman.
Hey, all right, cool. I get an elf too. I get a sexy elf too.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, if it seems all upside, deal. I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now the other thing I would actually like to see would be a mercenary style setup, where basically it would be for any army, but you would be allowed to take man-eaters as a special option within that army from the Ogre book. Like,
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Here's
Especially if Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say it'd be especially cool if the army you are also then like affected their special rules in some way, right? So like when you're Empire and you have the man-eaters, they've all they're Empire man-eaters, so they've trained with Empire people. So they have like they have access to different special rules that man-eaters might normally not be able to select, but only when you ally with the Empire can they select these, and so on and so forth, right?
Slayer man-eaters.
Yeah, that could be pretty badass, actually. We need to make this happen, fellas.
I think that'd be sweet. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm totally down with this idea.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I meant to tell you, Vince, since we're speaking about ogres, your Noblars 3, the Muppet Man, got quite a few compliments at Brawlers this weekend.
Fantastic. That's great. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, I used it as my Leprechaun Assassin in the 5th game of the tournament, and folks were very, very amused by it, so I needed to remember to tell you that.
Nice. Yeah, I watched your game 3. I just wanted to say, holy crap, did those ogres pull themselves out of a quagmire. Like, I don't want to give any spoilers for your battle report, but my God, man, when that happened, and I'm sure you know the moment I'm talking about, I was like, well, Mitt's dead. Like, just like that's, I thought the next turn was going to just be like, and then I lost. But in fact, that's not how it went at all. No. So, man, way to go, dude. That was, that was a great fight.
All I have to say there is that those ogres prove them worthy of all of the love and attention I have showered upon them.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Other good news, well, what you'll regard as good news, this tournament has done what you have as of yet not done, my friend. It has convinced me of the value of basing models. So just seeing some of the crazy stuff that folks were doing, Yeah, I got to get in on some of that action.
Awesome. I love it. I'm glad to hear it.
I'll send. Remind me to text you some picture or email you some pictures of some of the crazier armies that were there. It's pretty amazing.
Oh yeah,
But
totally.
so what else we got? So it looks like, and I'm sorry for whoever left this last question. I don't remember who you are. But it said the rewards for the formations in Archeon are awesome. I'm looking forward to trying some of them out. I've never played Thanquol. Is Thanquol worth it for non-Skaven players?
No.
Mechanically speaking, I don't know that for what I would find useful for non-Skaven players, it's probably not worth paying for it. Like I said, I think one of the best things in there is the jungle fighting rules, but that's like, what, 2 pages of rules?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mechanically speaking, there's not a whole lot for non-Skaven players. Other than that, I think there's what, the Incarnate of Fire if you're a dwarf player, and
Yeah.
to be honest, he's not great. And that's about it. I don't know. Skip's got our copy of Thanquol. I haven't looked at the rules in a little while, so.
Yeah, there's not a whole heck of a lot. If you're a Skaven player, you're loving this book. But, the art's good.
Yeah. If you're looking purely to pick it up for mechanical reasons, Mr. Whoever you are, and again, I'm sorry that I don't remember who you are. I'm going to actually look it up so I feel like less of a jackass for just calling you Mr. Whoever you are. Where are you?
If you sincerely hate Squeak Head Taker like I do, the very end of the book is fantastic. I love that. Favorite part of the entire series.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't find where that initial email was, so I'm sorry whoever this was.
But we value your question.
Yes, I do.
Yes,
Well, I get.
as a Skaven player, I will say my strong advice would be there are 2 groups of people who should buy this book if you're not playing Skaven. And that is one, somebody who you really like the end time story, and you're wanting to just keep getting it to read it all, and like you like where it's going, you like the direction, you like the book so far. If that's true, then yeah, sure, pick it up because it continues the story. And 2, you're like a completionist who feels like you want to have the whole collection on your shelf and put them there and marvel at your 5 hardbacks next to each other in their slipcases and be like, look upon what I have brought and its beauty. Then yes, but other than that, no.
Yeah, and it was Thomas Mertens that was the one that asked this question. So, sorry, Thomas, for having forgotten your name up to this point, but I found it. And so we got another question for Remington now. Can you guys come up with an Empire Flagellate character? Perhaps he could be like Fantasy Mad Max with a beard, and what would his special rules be?
Oh yeah, there used to be an Empire Flagellant character. I don't remember which book it was in, but that existed at one point. And yeah, 100%. Like what you need out of a Flagellant character is he needs to just be like a super prophet of doom that drives his people even more insane, right? He should be like a standard hero. He should be a hero level character, and he should drive. He can only join other, flagellants, obviously. And what he should do with them is make it so they get an extra D6 on their charge. They become Swift Striders because they're just even more psychotically seeking out their own doom as they run forward. And he should make it so they can just choose each round the number of models that they lose instead of having to roll for it. So you can just decide how fast you ramp yourself up into gutting yourself and getting those bonuses.
That's a good idea, but I've actually got one I think's a little better, or at least a little more fun.
All right.
Be a Lord level character called the First Prophet. Can join any unit but gives that unit the end is nigh special rule.
Nice. So he's turning Empire Halberdiers into flagellants, basically, as they run
Yeah!
forward psychotically.
Right. I mean, wouldn't that be awesome?
Can I put this guy on a horse?
Sure, why not?
All right,
It makes
cool.
his
I'm in.
horse have the end of end is not. What are you thinking about putting him on? Or putting him
I just
in,
want to
right?
put him in like a big group of pistoliers. Just like 30 pistoliers with him. They're all just running forward, shooting guns off into the air psychotically. Just the image in my mind of like, yeah!
Yeah.
That's all.
Yes. Well, I
That
think it'd
sounds
be
like a-
awesome, and I think it would fit the whole idea of like the flagellants being like normal men who have just given up in the face of the horrors of the Warhammer world. Should have that the first prophet like be able to turn everybody into flagellants. I like that.
The flagellants are representing somebody who's just given up in the face of the Warhammer world. So you mean like, I don't know, 70% of the people on the forums right now? Is that what you mean?
Right.
They're all flagellants?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, just
Hell,
have
I think at this
the-
point. No, you go ahead, man.
I'm sorry. Just have the hero actually make them core. That way you can have a whole crap ton of them.
Nice.
Yeah, that would be good, but the idea of just being able to pop out Unbreakable Core is a little terrifying.
I seem to remember, Michael, you played during the time with the 6th edition when they had the special armies in the back. We've talked about it before. Wasn't there a flagellant Empire army in the back of the 6th edition Empire book? You remember? I
don't
really
think he-
worry. Well, maybe somebody out there can verify. I swear to God, there was a flagellant Empire army, or like, alternate army in the back of the 6th edition Empire book, and it did what you're talking about, Skip. It turned flagellants into like the core choice you could have like any number of or some big number of.
You're also thinking of a day and time when Games Workshop cared about Warhammer. Fantasy, not for
Wow.
the game.
I think, okay, I'm going to change the name of my flagellant character, and it's going to be Michael.
Indeed. He's about ready to just start whipping himself right there on camera.
No,
He's doing it.
and it has a special ability where it just walks about like, here's D6 wounds and strength, whatever, your guys die, I don't care.
Right. Oh, poor bastard.
What did you do to them at Brawlers?
I did
What happened?
nothing. I did nothing. It's.
I feel like you took Michael out and brought back one of the nihilists from the Big Lebowski over here. Man, what's going on? He
Well,
believes in nothing.
He did sort of come up against the business end of the Chaos Dwarves in his last game. Maybe he's still hurting from that.
No, that was a fun game. I love the tournament. I'm super sleepy, guys.
So story that I have to tell about Michael in that last game of the tournament. So he's up. I know he's up against Chaos Dwarves, and it's actually against a guy I know from around here. So after my game was over, I went over to go see him, and it's probably an hour and a half into the game, and all I see is the entire Chaos Dwarf army on one side of the board, and all of Michael's stuff back in its holders just like off to the side, and I'm like, dude, it's an hour and a half in. When are you going to deploy your army? And he goes, I have, and points, and the only thing on the board is one little hammerer that's still in combat with one unit from the Chaos Dwarves.
That dude's becoming a character, by the way. That dude's becoming a character. He's the
It was
next
so
army.
I swear to God, I thought he hadn't deployed his army yet, because the whole Chaos army was there, still in their deployment zone, hadn't moved.
It was rough. It hurt.
It cracked me up when I saw that was the end of the game. Poor bastard.
That hammer, he survived.
Yes, he did.
He was a magnificent hammerer.
I'd like to think that at the end of the fight, the Chaos Dwarves, like at the end of 6 rounds, I guess when time is called in the world or whatever makes armies stop fighting, like somebody blows a whistle, and they were all just like, nope, it's all right, let him go. He earned it. And the hammer just salutes and then turns and walks away into the distance, like into the sunset, as a low guitar strums.
It's like a Bill Bixby in The Incredible Hulk. That piano starts playing. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh.
Yeah. That was awesome. But I'm trying to see if we have any more questions. I don't know how helpful we were on Thanquol and Kaine. Ultimately, I think they just had less meat to the bones than Nagash did, certainly. Does that sound like a fair estimation, fellas?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true.
I'll look at it like the 3 new Star Wars movies. You know, there are bits and pieces of good stuff buried in them. So if you put them all into one movie or one book, it would be totally awesome. But, you know, there's too much Jar Jar in some of these things, you know?
Hey, too much Jar Jar.
Sorry.
Now I've just got the image of, like, a 12-inch Jar Jar toy surrounded by the 9 books of Nagash and spirit hosts and stuff.
Well, I've been wondering what I'm going to do for my Nagash conversion. Well, now it's answered. There we go. Easy enough.
Mizakat's purple sun!
You died, Mooey Mooey!
Oh, God, no.
Could it be any worse than Nagash?
Probably not.
As a side note, they never explain in the Archeon book whether Nagash goes back to normal size. So if you read it thinking that he's still 30-some-odd feet tall, it leads to some very interesting mental pictures as you go through that book, by the way.
I'm just assuming he's still 30 feet tall the whole time, and I like picturing that in my head. It makes me laugh as everyone around is having a normal conversation with him, and he's just like some towering giant, and they're all just like just talking with him in a normal tone of voice. He's up there, huge.
Great, babe.
Well, that would make sense because they still use the giant font and capital letters whenever he talks, so it's just him yelling at them.
Yeah, that's why. It's not because he's like actually being authoritarian or anything. It's just because he has to yell so they can hear him because he's so far away. Like, maybe stop having the ghosts lift you up, Nagash. We get it. You're really powerful. Could you get down here, please?
Okay. And so last question is Tuna Sandwichify says, "What up, guys? Just joined, working on a few of my own bat rips. What I miss?" First of all, Tuna, there is no way in heck we're going back over the last hour and a half just for you. But now that you're here and listening, I have to give total props to Tuna. After the game, day 1 of the tournament, we actually went out with his crew and went out to Carolina Ale House. And that man can put away more alcohol than I thought was humanly possible. I thought he was going to die of a terminal hangover the next day, and he shows up at 8 o'clock looking more alert than I did. Applause to you, sir.
Nice.
I seriously thought we were going to have to carry him out of the restaurant at the end of the night, but he came back in and was awesome the next day, so that was just my fun tuna story. Well, guys, I think that's about the size of it for tonight. I think we've run out of everything that we can talk about with Kaine and Thanquol, unless you guys have suddenly come up with anything else you can think of.
Nothing on that. All I have in closing is hashtag damn it Manfred. Let's get it trending. Come on, people. Hashtag damn it Manfred.
I would have to care enough to even be angry at him at this point. It really, like, here is my entire, and this was funny because my response to this had Vince literally speechless. My whole response to Archeon is that it just feels very anticlimactic. Which is something that sounds very strange for a book in which they destroy the entire planet. But by
Yeah.
the end of it, I just meh is the best I can come up with. It's just I got nothing.
You know,
But
you made the comparison. You said you think it's like a Michael Bay movie,
yeah,
and that's fine. I'm okay with that. It's I'll take that. Uh, he knows how to make the money and put some explosions on screen. You know, I'll take it. I'll take it. It's not Pearl Harbor or TMNT or Transformers 4. I mean, it's at least Transformers 1.
mm, let me see. My reaction to Transformers One, I felt bored. I felt like something that I had loved had been horribly raped and mutilated. Yeah, I'll be right there. Yeah, we'll call this Transformers One.
Fair enough.
All right, guys. Well, before we get any more maudlin, I think Michael needs to go to bed because I think he's about to fall asleep on his keyboard. But thank you guys for watching. Hopefully, to be honest, this may very well just be our last End Times book because I'm having trouble thinking that we'll be able to muster enough give-a-shits to do another video on them. So we'll come up with some other topic. I know some folks had reached out to me about doing some of the doing videos for the other army books that we still have to do, the Lizard Men, the Orcs and Goblins, the Chaos Dwarves, those. But with all of the craziness getting ready for Ballers, I completely forgot who it was that contacted me about which books. So if you guys could give me a shout at joshlmerritt@gmail.com, it's much easier than me having to go through a bunch of videos and try and figure out where the comments were left. That would be fantastic. We did also get one offer to come on and do a Beastman rebuttal video with us. Nick Fensky offered to step up and correct us in our Beastman hating ways. So hopefully we will be orchestrating that sometime in the near future. But the other thing I wanted to kind of ask out as a last sort of thing tonight is, frankly, I think we may be getting close to running out of ideas. So if there's any interesting shows, anything you guys would like to see us do for an hour to an hour and a half, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and we'll maybe do like a viewer's choice episode or two, depending upon the number of ideas that we get, because we definitely want to make sure that we're still doing our best to, if not entertain, at least provide useful information to folks, or vice versa. So, but I think that's going to be all for us tonight. So everybody, Michael, Skip, Vince, any last words? Or
Hashtag damn it, Manfred.
right. All right. Well, we'll leave it on that then. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.